Oh, Twitter. I'll tell you. Bounding into comics. Rumor: Marvel and Kevin Feige could take over DC Comics. Thoughts, Ethan Van Sciver? Oh, a few. Yeah. Let's go. Hello. I started this gangsta show. Mr. Mother, thanks I get. Hello. I started this gangsta show. And Mr. Mother, thanks I get. Hello. If you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button. Join us. New from All Caps Comics, Cyberfrog, Unforgettable Tales on Indiegogo. 2 classic comics presented in color for the first time, plus a Blacklight Salamandroid poster. Back it today, links in the description below. Alright, hey everyone, it's Comic Artist Pro Secrets. My name's Ethan Van Sciver. I'm a 27-year veteran of the comic book industry, the one that's in decline right now, the one that's on the verge of collapse. World's most charming, elegant, eloquent, and yet humble man. Great big Star Wars fan. Trusted member of the media. And that's why I bring you here to this article on Bounding Into Comics. According to Bounding Into Comics, there's a rumor going around that Marvel and Kevin Feige could take over DC Comics. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine how cool that would be if Marvel Comics stepped in and said, you know what, DC, you guys, why don't you let us handle the bulk of your printing and publishing needs? You guys clearly are having trouble. Why don't we're having trouble too, but we're able to hide it because we're shielded by the mouse that doesn't mind wasting and losing millions and millions of dollars. So why shouldn't we lose money on you too? Imagine this: we'll get Superman versus the Hulk comics. We'll get JLA versus the Avengers comics. We'll get we'll get X-Men versus Teen Titans. X-Men versus Teen Titans, I guess that would be. Who else? Nova Corps versus Green Lantern Corps. Boy, it would sure be fun, wouldn't it? It's a fanboy's dream come true. I know that I would like to see that. I've waited for a Marvel versus DC crossover event that wasn't embarrassing for a long, long time. There were the big ones in the 1970s, like Batman versus the Hulk and Spider-Man versus Superman. Those were quite good. The one from the 1990s, not so much. So, is this an actual rumor, and who is spreading this rumor? Is it possible that Marvel would take on DC Comics, would actually license the characters from DC and do something with it? Let's read this article here. Following the sudden departure of Dan DiDio from DC, and that was Friday. Okay, today is Wednesday. And by the way, we still don't know what DC is going to do to fill that vacuum. And there is a vacuum left behind by Dan DiDio's firing. They removed him suddenly with prejudice. They didn't allow him any time to get his stuff together, make a speech, pretend that he was retiring. They just fired him. So there is what's going to happen. Right now the company is unstable. We don't know who's going to be put in there to stabilize this situation. Jim Lee is still, at this moment, he is the publisher of DC Comics because he was the co-publisher with Dan DiDio, and now he's alone. So we're going to be watching a few things, by the way. In terms of this situation and DC's future, let's keep an eye on Jim Lee, and let's keep an eye on how DC Entertainment and Warner Brothers treat him. That's going to be key. If they keep him there where he is, and they just kind of plug in somebody new, maybe from in-house, Bob Harris would be a good choice. Bobby Chase would be a good choice. If they plug one of these people in and make them the new publisher of DC Comics with Jim Lee, we can infer from that that DC Comics is attempting to stabilize itself and intends to continue to try to publish their own comic books into the next few years. A warning sign, something that should scare you, will be Jim Lee stepping down entirely. That'll be worrisome. Or Jim Lee being promoted way up and beyond the comic book division. If Jim Lee is suddenly finding himself working on the television or movie end of DC Entertainment, that means that Warner Brothers and AT&T are moving to close down the publishing. You can pretty much guarantee at that point that's the direction that they're going to go in. So it's all going to be about Jim Lee. All right, so that having been said, Let's look ahead here. Onlookers were quick to hit the panic button and pronounce DC as DOA, and now there's a rumor that they will be taken over by their competition. Cosmic Book News shared the rumor over the weekend, detailing AT&T is unhappy with DC's proposed fifth-generation reboot of DC's continuity. That's been reported everywhere. That's been reported by Bleeding Cool, and that seems to be the case. That's probably why Dan was dismissed. All right, so it's called 5G. That is their new initiative, their new publishing initiative. They're creating new stories that are aimed at making AT&T think that DC Publishing is a valuable resource as an R&D kind of firm, research and development, also like an IP farm, an idea farm. Hey, we're cheap. We don't cost very much. It costs, a few $1,000s to put out a comic book, and we create all of these ideas that could be mined into, theoretically, something like an Avengers movie type of thing here. I mean, it doesn't cost much, so maybe you should just invest in continuing to publish comics. And 5G, brand new ideas from us, and aren't we cute? 5G, that's AT&T. We're flirting with you a little bit. We're saying hi, Daddy, notice us. Dan DiDio was meant to kind of shepherd this along, but there was conflict after conflict and problem after problem, and Dan DiDio was suddenly fired. So 5G is very important to the future of DC Comics publishing, and Dan wasn't getting it done, evidently. So the question is, do we go forward from here, or are we throwing in the towel? What is AT&T going to say right now? All right, so 5G. So the company is allegedly considering licensing out the characters for Marvel to publish while maintaining control of the valued intellectual property. All right, so this is important right here. Maintaining control of the valued intellectual property. This is it. This is what AT&T is interested in. They are 100% interested in controlling Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all of the characters that go along with DC Comics. They're going to exploit them in their main purpose, which is to create a streaming service. AT&T, Time Warner is going to have their own streaming service where you're going to be able to see exclusive content, and then all of the, think about, TBS, think about like all the Turner stuff, all of the Warner Brothers movies, all of that stuff, plus all of the, Superman, Batman, all the DC Comics stuff, everything associated with Warner Brothers on a streaming service. Bugs Bunny, oh my gosh, all the Bugs Bunny cartoons, awesome. They want that. They don't necessarily need to publish comic books anymore to maintain and control the trademarks of these characters. They used to need to keep them in print perpetually, but with the streaming service, they will continue to be, that trademark will continue to be reinforced as long as these characters are appearing in other media. So they don't need to publish them anymore, and that's the thing. That's the realization that I think everyone is having. DC used to say, you need to keep us around, Warner Brothers, because we need to continually publish Superman to own Superman. That's no longer the case. All right, so here we go. Let's Lords of the Long Box. I've never heard them. I've never heard of Lords of the Long Box. On YouTube also covered this, noting that the rumor might be disinformation cooked up by AT&T and Warner Brothers to gauge fan reaction. Lords also note the implication Kevin Feige could end up handling DC characters on the cinematic end and bring some of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Feige currently runs Marvel's publishing too. This is correct. CBN points out that this isn't much of a stretch when you remember that Marvel has a deal ongoing with Sony to share Spider-Man and associated characters. Ethan Van Sciver, that's me, also talked about the speculation on his live stream. While he doesn't think AT&T will sell off DC entirely either, they really enjoy Batman. No, of course, this is ridiculous. There are people who are saying, hey, why would they sell off Batman? They don't want to. They just don't want to publish comic books anymore. You don't have to get rid of the baby with the bathwater. You just stop publishing comic books and continue to make Batman movies. That's all it is. His insider intel tells him the conglomerate is losing interest in comics and might fold the publisher. That is correct. And here's a quote from me, I think. Understand, it doesn't mean the characters are going to go anywhere. Batman, of course, is a prized possession of AT&T now. AT&T is Batman, and they're going to keep putting out movies and comics and toys and all that stuff. Comic books are dead, and they're going to close up the publishing house soon. I'll tell you that a professional who I spoke to recently said, I was talking to one of the higher-ups at DC Comics who said, if 5G doesn't work out, that's it. AT&T is closing the publishing arm. So this is ballgame. That sounds like a good quote from me. Yes, all right. So forget all this. Let's just get to the meat of this question here. We don't need to go forward anymore. All right. I'll answer this question right now. Will Marvel and Kevin Feige take over DC Comics publishing? The answer is no. The answer is no. They won't. Every single time that Marvel Comics has taken on some kind of new publishing venture, it's been something that they've had vested interest in. Conan the Barbarian. Conan the Barbarian, Marvel Comics is now publishing the comics. Why? Because Disney just acquired Fox. So Disney now owns the Conan the Barbarian movie rights. Therefore, there's every incentive for Marvel Comics to publish Conan the Barbarian stories that may become movies, television, anything like that. Okay, same thing with Star Wars. Star Wars has always felt like a Marvel property. Marvel used to publish them way back in the 70s and 80s. Used to publish Star Wars comics. Now Disney owns Star Wars, so of course Marvel Comics is going to publish Star Wars comic books. It's all about what's in-house. It's all about what they can do. Can they exploit it in other media? There is no money to be made for Marvel Comics to adopt DC Comics characters without the rights to make movies. That's it. They will not do it. There's no way that they're going to take on the publishing role of DC Comics characters without also having the rights to make movies and to make other things. That's the hard, like, the comics is the hard part. The comics is the unrewarding part. You know, the movies, the TV, all of the other media, that's the gravy. That is no, it's not even the gravy. It is the cake. It is the meat of the proposition. So this is ridiculous. No, this is not going to happen. Marvel Comics will never, I promise you, take over the publishing of DC Comics characters because, again, there is no money in it. There is no future in it. Now, will somebody else take over the publishing of DC characters? Yeah, sure. That's entirely possible. There will be other people who might be interested in just publishing the comic book characters. However, I will tell you this, and not to sound too gloomy here, guys, I want you to stay with me and stay cheerful despite what I'm about to say. If DC Comics folds, the comic book industry collapses in 2 months. Okay, and I mean, it'll happen, boom, like that. That's it. There is no way that 1/3 of the comic book publishing industry, that 1/3 of the market share of comics could evaporate. And this industry continue to go on at this point. There is no way. So, you know, what we're looking at right now is if AT&T literally holds the fate of the comic book industry entire, the mainstream comic book industry, it holds it in its hands. And AT&T is full of a bunch of, I'm sorry, people. I was going to say a-holes, but I don't know them. They could be nice people. But let's just put it this way. They make $50 million a year in salary, these people who are going to be making the decision about whether or not the comic book industry, which is a niche, tiny, shrinking industry at this point, it's antiquated, it's old-fashioned, it's not growing. These people are going to hold the decision about whether the entire comic industry lives or dies. And I ask you, do you think that theoretical, hypothetical person at AT&T gives a good gosh darn about comic books and the history of comic books? No. They care about their shareholders. They care about exactly what they said. They care about the debt of AT&T. They care about their streaming service, and they care about cutting the fat. And indeed, somebody like Dan DiDio, who probably made a 7-figure salary over at Warner Brothers, at DC Entertainment, that salary needed to be cut, evidently. We just saved some money, and there will be more of that on the way. I have also shown, I've shown that DC Comics is hiring outside of the comic book industry. They're bringing in talent from Hollywood. They're bringing in talent from books and television. They're bringing in big name talent to kind of change the way comics are being done. So a lot of the comic book creators and professionals that you've gotten to know, these people who are sacred cows and whales, these people are going to be let out to pasture and slaughtered, not literally, just figuratively. Their careers are going to come to a sudden and abrupt end at DC Comics as this one last shot at saving DC Comics publishing is put into play. You're already seeing it if you look at Bleeding Cool. You're seeing all of these new hires, all of these strangers that are coming in from Hollywood to take over in some big way the creative aspects of DC Comics. We're looking at major disruptive change right now. And it is, it is, I would say it is literally doomsday for the comic book industry, which is sad. I mean, it is sad, but everything changes. Nothing lasts forever. We're going to continue to cover all of this stuff. I will continue to tell you what I know from my experience, what I've heard, what I'm hearing out there from people in the know, people who actually know what's going on. I'm going to impart it here on Comic Artist Pro Secrets. So if you're interested in watching the end of the comic book industry happen, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. I will make all of this make sense to you, and I will try to clear up any questions or confusion that you may have as we watch a lot of sad stuff. I mean, I'm a comic book fan. When Dan DiDio was fired, it actually made me a little bit tearful because it wasn't just that Dan's a wonderful guy. I like him, but it just really signaled that the comic book industry is in dire health. It's very sick, and the end is near. All right, thanks. Subscribe, like, share this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Any ideas you have, any thoughts that you have about this video, or anything that you'd like. Do you have questions? Because I'll make videos based on your questions as well. Thanks, everyone. Subscribe, and please also back Cyberfrog Unforgettable Tales up on Indiegogo, and sign up for the Cyberfrog 2 Wrecked Planet email mailing list. Hey, whether or not the comic book industry survives, we're still making Cyberfrog comics because we don't depend on the industry. Here with Comicsgate, we depend on you, the readers, the customers. We can do this ourselves. There are going to be a few people standing if everything collapses, and it's going to be me, your boy Zach. It's going to be people like Doug DeNapel. It's going to be people like Brian Polito. It's going to be people who are independent of the system and can make comics anyway. And that's a good thing. Hail. All right, everyone. See you again soon. Bye. Hey, you want to follow me on Twitter? Are you sure? Well, if so, I'm at Ethan Van Sciver. That's at Ethan Van Sciver. See you there. Hey, I got a P.O. box. Want to send me some mail? Send it to Ethan Van Sciver, P.O. Box 607, Marlton, New Jersey, 08053. And I'll probably open it up on the live stream. Thanks very much, everyone.